Welcome to Odeshi, the Bulletproof Entrepreneur, episode 3.
If you're ready to take your destiny into your own hands, you've come to the right place. This is Odeshi, the Bulletproof Entrepreneur, featuring interviews with the most exciting and amazing entrepreneurs across Africa. Here's your host, Chi Odogu.
Hey. Welcome to episode 3, guys. Beginning to get into the groove of podcasting. I just wanted to remind everyone to sign up on the website for the giveaway for the launch. I'm giving out 2 books, The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday and Choose Yourself by none other than James Altucher. It's going to be good, guys, trust me. So the best way for you to enter for an opportunity to get one of these books is to sign up for my email list at odeshi.com. That's odeshi.com. You can also leave a review on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, YouTube, and share it on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and any other social media you like. And now, a word from our sponsors before we get on with the rest of the show.
Now close your eyes and repeat after me. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. But guess what, guys? You can still find a home away from home if you go to jovega.com. Jovega.com is a leading hotel booking platform with over 5,000 hotels across Nigeria. So, whether you're visiting friends or attending a special event, you can be rest assured knowing that you'll find a nice place to get a good night's rest. Go to jovega.com. That's JOVAGO.com for more details. Looking to make secure and hassle-free transactions online? Want to take control of all your bills and be the master of your universe? Just Paga it. Paga is Nigeria's premier e-payment solution that makes it extremely easy to conclude transactions online. Whether it's paying your bills or online shopping, Paga has got you covered. Just Paga it. Go to mypaga.com, that's mypaga.com, for more details. Your cash, anytime, anywhere, Paga.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Odeshi, the Bulletproof Entrepreneur. Today's guest is Victor Asemota. He is the founder and CEO of Swifter Systems, an enterprise application and consulting and implementation company that focuses on information security and transaction systems. Victor has over 20 years of experience in the technology space in West Africa, and he has worked with many startup projects with African venture capital companies and believes in the vision of harnessing the knowledge and experience of African professionals globally to make Africa the greatest force to contend with in the world. He has brought a lot of international experience and resources to effect change solutions to businesses in Africa. Victor, please tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Like I said, I was born in Benin City, Edo State in Nigeria. Grew up there. Did almost all my schooling there at first. And my mother went to school in the UK. My uncles went to school in the UK. Everybody was going to school abroad. They kept on laughing at me that I was 100% Benin. I did my first degree. I did my primary school, secondary school, first degree, MBA in Benin City. I was 100% Benin. I hadn't gone anywhere at all.
Yeah.
I started my company in Benin City. I did my NYSC in Lagos, worked in Lagos for a while, came back again to Benin City to do my MBA, and it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made going back to Benin City, because a place that I knew, I was already familiar with. So I actually understood all the problems that were there, and that was how we were able to apply the knowledge that I gained from working in the technology company called Dyson, one of the very, very first technology companies, indigenous technology companies in Nigeria.
Okay.
They took over from IBM when most foreign companies were indigenized by Obasanjo the first time he was president. So they actually started, recruiting local talent and training them on the mysteries of foreign technology, and so that he actually gave us a break. So our CEO there was Professor Fatunla, who was also at the same time the head of the Department of Computer Science in the University of Benin. And that's something that I keep telling people now. There are not enough academics who are also in the industry. And that was actually very, very useful to us at that time, because he was a lecturer who was also the CEO of a technology company outside. I don't know how that plays out now, but he was CEO of one of the biggest technology company in Nigeria, and he was also the head of the Department of Computer Science in the University of Benin. So he gave us that break, and when I came back to Benin to do my master's, I had already got the grounding from Gysin, and myself and this little Indian boy called Saldin Narayana, who was a developer at Gysin, came back to school again in Univen. We wanted to go to Lagos for an event. We were broke. We did not have any cash, and we're thinking of how to, get money. And we now realize, wait a minute, we have some skills. So why don't we find somebody we can sell the skills to? So, and luckily for us, we found somebody who wanted some training for his staff, who wanted this done, some couple of things fixed in the office, tech-wise. So, and we did that. It was just a hobby at first. Traveled. Before we knew what was happening, more of those requests started coming while we were still in school. And we now realized that, okay, this was something really, really serious. That there was demand in Benin City for technology services. So, and we were doing it on an ad hoc basis for a while until this same client now introduced us to the largest agro-based company in Nigeria at that time, the Okomo Palm Company.
And that was your first client. Your first client.
Yes.
Okay.
But I would say that was my first big client.
First big client. Okay.
Because the first client, these guys I told you about, they were the EEC. It was Federal Department of Agriculture actually, but it was an EEC project under the Federal Department of Agriculture, the European Economic Commission. They are actually they were providing funding for local projects, and they had this model where the local projects will adopt technology, pay for the technology, then they'll give them a refund. So, and which was actually quite good. Those are things that also do not happen. When you talk about aid and all of that now in Africa, they don't have those models anymore.
Yeah.
They actually encourage them to use local resources, to do their projects, and there weren't many. So it was like a needle in the haystack. They found us, and we're also very lucky that there was a gentleman called Mr. John Whitechurch. That is a very, very important person in my life. He was working with UAC Group in the past before he became the CEO of Okomo. He was the person that started Mr. Biggs in Nigeria. So, he's I call him the the whitest Nigerian I've ever met, because he's 29 years in Africa. He basically was the one that gave us that break. He believed in us.
Okay.
He believed that there was no reason why he should call him a British company, but he's British, to come do work in Africa when Africans could do it. And, he believed in me, and, it so happened that the farm Okomo is actually based in a community where my ancestral home is. It's called Udo. And, I knew that community very well. And, it all worked out in the end. We did a lot of work for them for 7 years. That was basically our lab. We learned everything there. We failed. We succeeded. And we're able to build eventually, a full ERP from scratch. Using our heads, end to end.
Okay.
And the only thing we did not have at that time we did not have people who had already done what we did successfully. Companies like Geisen, they were selling boxes, they were pushing stuff. Everything was based on what IBM was doing. They just took IBM script and they were running it. So we didn't have real local tech entrepreneurs who would actually tell us, okay, don't make this blunder, don't make that blunder. There were the very, very few. There was a guy, Mr. Williams of Tara Systems. We didn't understand. Those guys were far ahead of us. Those guys were doing Oracle stuff. We were doing, we were very young and we didn't. So we made a lot of mistakes. We made a lot of blunders. One of those was, wasting 7 years to build a product that would not scale because we had over-customized it for one client.
Wow. You spent 7 years on one project.
On one project. There are several projects. We were making money from it. But the thing, people were looking at us from outside and saying, these guys were whiskey. They were, we made a lot of money. We did hardware, we did software. We were doing a whole lot of things, for a farm in a community where they had 18,000 workers, manual workers, and maybe like about 100 to 200 members of staff managing those guys. So we built payroll, we did everything, for that community. And, fantastic learning experience. Even when I became an SAP consultant later on, there were things that were not new to me anymore because I had done it myself. I had learned the hard way, Now, when Mr. Whitechurch left there and all of that, a foreign, a Belgian company actually bought the farm. And, when big companies buy small companies, they want to standardize everything because this Belgian company had farms all over Africa. So they wanted to use the same software for all the farms in Africa.
Okay.
Now, they asked us, could we replicate what we had done in Okomi at other farms? Oh, yeah, we could. But did we have the resources to? No, we didn't. And that was it. An Indian company came that had the resources and that could do it, and they took us out. So that was my very, very first failure. And, it was really, really bitter, because we, 7 years of hard work, we lost everything.
Oh, wow.
And, it was then I now understood how vulnerable small companies, small tech companies in Africa. We didn't know anything about getting funding. We didn't know anything about scaling. We didn't know anything about, standardizing products. There's so many things we didn't know.
So you guys were just running this as you were going along the way. You didn't...
Yeah, we had there were 21 guys. We had, wow. In fact, I keep telling people my greatest accomplishment, because there's a young man, he's in London now, he's doing very well. We had people that we took from the streets. This guy came to us, he didn't even pass JAM. He didn't even...
Wait, for our listeners that are not in Africa, could you please explain what JAM is?
Oh, the matriculation exams for universities.
Okay, so that's kind of like the SAT for universities.
So he came to us and, we looked at him and said, look, this guy had a lot of promise. And, we gave him a computer. And the guy became one of the best developers that, in fact, if not the best developers that has ever worked with us. And he went back to school, came out with the first class, went to England, did his PhD, and he's doing very, very well. Now, those were the kind of opportunities that we created, for a lot of people, around them. But for us as a company, we did not really, really know what we were doing. I wouldn't say that period was a waste, because when we failed, a lot of people who left us now went to companies like System Specs. They have a human manager, the best HR software in Nigeria today. It was people from Swifter who went there, to actually help them build it and eventually standardize it. Mm-hmm. So, human manager, when I was in South Africa 1 year, I found a company who was actually helping them, do that standardization. And it was then I now realized that we needed to reach out to South Africa. So, which is what I did. But my co-founder, he had already gone to South Africa. Had moved. He got married, moved to South Africa. So he kept on dragging me out of Nigeria. Come see what's happening outside there. learn. He started another little company in South Africa with some guys called Sagacious. They had
What's the name?
Sagacious.
Okay.
Sagacious Systems. They had built this little payment switch that was scaling rapidly, because then he had learned from the mistakes. They were now doing very well. They were in 47 sites in about 17 countries. They actually wanted me to join that team, and I opted to become a partner. Still doing what we were doing in Nigeria. But I didn't know what was going to happen until it happened to us, and we lost all the business for that one client. Then I realized that it was time to actually do something different, and we found out that we had actually gained a lot of experience, and we could use that experience to provide services to other people who had products that are scaled to Nigeria that did not have resources to actually support them. So I got in touch with my uncle, who used to be a banker, who left banking and had started business, and he actually wanted me to come join him to be part of the consulting business. In fact, I did my national service with him. I lived with him for several years. I've lived with him longer than I even lived with my parents. So he kept on kept trying to drag me to the corporate world. He never succeeded. Eventually when he left the corporate world, when he already had his own consulting business, dragged me in. So while I was there with him, a couple of companies were set up. He invested in the first telecoms business in Nigeria, Econet Wireless Nigeria.
Okay. So that was the first mobile phone company?
Yeah, first mobile phone company in Nigeria. Yeah. So I was part of the project team who actually got that off the ground. I saw how you actually really, really raise money, because they raised about $285 million.
Wow.
For that company. So I actually now gained firsthand, a lot of experience. We did. There was a bank we took over. We did a lot of, M&As. There was a bank we took over. We started with a seed fund of 2 million naira. We IPO'd at 3 billion. So, I saw a whole lot of things, which was really, really good. It was a few years, but this tech bug still kept on, pulling at me.
So were you actively involved in the deal process with Econet at the time?
Yeah.
Apart from the technology side?
No, technology side was where they wanted me to be, but
okay. The role was not very structured. You could move. It wasn't
very structured. But at the end of the day, it was HSBC Capital. HSBC Capital, they came and they actually structured the deal, and they had very, very few local resource people, and I was with them. I was seeing everything. I was working in the same office. I was actually help. It was technology support, but you at the end of the day, you get involved in all the things you're not meant to get involved in.
Okay.
And I learned a lot from that process. I actually realized that, okay, look, you know what, you can actually do something really, really big, without having your own funds or bootstrapping it.
Okay.
And even then, you still have doubts about what you can do yourself. You still ask yourself, look, you know what, these guys, Econet, they were in Zimbabwe. They had actually done some stuff before they came here, until that company itself failed. They had a lot of issues, and they had to get acquired, and I saw everything that was going on.
Okay.
And I realized that this thing is not rocket science. From that project, Till decided to go back into technology services, and we had the very, very first public sector SAP client in Nigeria, Delta State. It was also another hard learning experience. Trying to work together with other Nigerians, we had like a JV with some other guys, and we tried to do this project. And you know, let's say technologically it was successful, but as a business it was a failure because at the end of the day,
Why would you say that?
Yeah, the JV did not work. You know, Econet was also a JV, did not work. You know, I found out that there was something fundamental about, you know, trying to get people to work together in Nigeria at that time was very, very difficult because there was no trust.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? And there were a lot of people who had not been used to doing, like HSBC Capital came, showed us how to raise money. All of that money was raised in Nigeria. None of the money came from outside. $285 million, we raised it from people who were local. Okay?
Wow.
Now, but running the business after, you know, was not a nightmare. You know, now, same thing in the little entity that we formed, you know, JV, to do public sector projects. I actually saw the same thing repeating itself. You know, people having ideas that they don't know the difference between cash flow and profit. You know, you're seeing the cash, you just want to use it.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, I decided to go back to consulting, you know, on my own again. And the first project we did was...
So you went back to your own company, that's Swifter?
Yes.
Okay.
Even though my uncle was still pulling back, you know, still come back. At Swifter, first project that we did was with the IFC. I had this African Project Development Facility. It was like a small fund for startups. And a lot of people did not know about it, you know. I was fortunate I knew about it, but I was actually working with them on the consulting side. And the first company first real tech company they dealt with was SocketWorks. They had not dealt with any technology company before. Everything was all new. So they did not have any market information. Nothing. There was nothing there. So I had to actually do a survey, look at their business model, and give them recommendations. So, and SocketWorks wanted to go into BPO in Nigeria because this was at the height of the BPO craze in India and everywhere, you know. And the guy, Dr. Alochife, he felt, he coming from Silicon Valley, felt he could also replicate the same thing in Nigeria. And I got into the deep end. Actually, now found out, first of all, there's no industry data. You know, luckily, I got bits and pieces here and there, you know, went deep into BPO and looked at his model, and now realized that he was, you know, going in the wrong direction from my analysis.
Okay, so let's take a pause here. So what were the main obstacles you faced going into the BPO business?
No, he was going into the BPO business.
So Swifter didn't go into the BPO.
Swifter went into eventually, but not in the way he wanted, not in the way he was doing it. We were doing outsourcing, but we're doing outsourcing at client locations. He wanted to do it from a location. You understand what I'm saying?
I see.
So at the end of the day, we told him to go into education and government, education, healthcare, and government. So that's what we recommended. And he said no, he preferred banking and oil and gas, which were booming industries in Nigeria at that time. So, because I did my analysis, and what I felt was, look, where there was a need and where there was a strategic opportunity was in education and government. So, and luckily for me, the IFC backed me and told him, look, that's what he must do. And eventually, he did it. And he became so successful. He was the first person to actually provide technology for Nigerian investors. Became so successful, he didn't really need IFC funding anymore. But IFC still gave him about $2.6 million anyway. So that was the first local startup actually, really tech startup I worked with, to actually help, raise some money. I learned a lot from that assignment, and I realized that there was a massive opportunity for outsourcing, locally. Particularly just providing services. Okay. That people did not even know, they were not even aware of. Everybody wants to sell products, but nobody realized that, services alone, but now I didn't want to make the same mistake we made before of doing everything in one location and not scaling. So luckily for us, we found one client, which happened to eventually now become the biggest telco in Nigeria and Africa, MTN. Because of the experience I had with Econet, I understood telco a lot. I understood everything about telco. I knew how, you start a telco business. I knew everything, inside the telco, in and out. So it was easier for us to actually
pitch the work to them.
Sorry, yeah. So, but we're working with a South African partner then, because they actually wanted to do, what eventually became mobile money now in all of Africa. They were the ones who actually had the initial idea, because they actually wanted to do it in Nigeria first, but they never got a license. It became just an airtime sales project. But we took that knowledge and, it now became what they used to start other mobile payment projects in other operating countries. And, that was it, basically. And, that was how we scaled. We started doing projects in several countries, and we started doing work with Vodafone, with other telcos. Then we ended up also still doing work with Google in the education sector. That all the work that SocketWorks should have done, that they didn't do, Google is now doing it, for universities across Africa.
So, what were some of the lessons and strategies you learned?
Nigeria is a very big country. That, I'm sorry to use this term, is sometimes big for nothing. We were doing work for a client, and we're not paid for 18 months. We now realize that, cash flow, because this is the thing. The risk with services is people do not really, really realize the importance. If it's not a physical item,
yes,
they're not going to pay you on time. So we realized that quickly that, this was an existential problem. Mm-hmm. And when we were doing work with the farm, we also had that kind of cash flow problem, but we had different other sources of income. So we could actually, if they didn't pay you for this, they can pay you for that, they can pay. But for this one, we're actually providing one line item services. And we now realize, and we had people to pay, we had a lot of things to do. And in the middle of all that, I went back to school again. I went to school in the UK to do a master's in information technology and management. Because I realized, first of all, I always, the family thing, the people mocking me that, I did all my schooling in Benin. I needed to go do school elsewhere. Then apart from that, I realized that a lot of the things, because like Aloy Chife, when he came, he had a lot of knowledge from outside that I didn't have, a lot of the things I did, I learned from the internet and from local experience. I realized I needed to also beef up my credentials, which was one of the best decisions I ever made, because I went out there, and I really learned a lot. And after that, every year I try to go do some course, the other outside Nigeria. And I was doing all of that. I was a student. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It was really, really hard. This is something that a lot of people do not realize. We now just decided, look, you know what? We can't make the same mistake we made, several years ago, depending on one client in one country. So we now started we now found a client in Guinea-Bissau, of all countries, who was willing to pay us more than what a client in Nigeria was offering us, and they were not paying on time. And these guys were regular. In fact, these guys were paid in advance. Because Guinea-Bissau is such a small country, there are only 2 flights from Senegal going to that place in a week. They were isolated, pretty isolated. So they really, really needed services. So we now realized that there were so many other little African countries where, our skills were required, where, maybe they did not have local skills. So, but what I also did, which I maybe I don't know if this is a success or not, I realized that, we were not going to use only Nigerians to do work in those countries. I decided to start recruiting other Africans, local Africans. Okay. And, particularly people who speak French, bilingual people. So we built a multilingual team, and we now had a team from, different parts of Africa, who could actually do work anywhere in Africa.
Wow.
And that was actually one of the. I think that was our biggest success. But it was from adversity that we got to that.
Yes, I see. Because you had cash flow problems, and the only way to get out of cash flow problems was to get new clients, and your new clients came from expanding into other countries.
Countries we did not expect. Countries that, it was counterintuitive. We never expected that, Guinea-Bissau.
A small country. Yeah.
They speak Portuguese. Will be the one, that will provide us. Somebody tells you, okay, you are from go do work in a Portuguese-speaking country. You look at them and say, are you crazy? But, that was it. that was how. And when I say that to people today, look, skill. They don't get it. Oh, no. Tell a Nigerian to skill. The first thing they're starting about is Ghana. Are they up with Ghana or Kenya? I say, you guys are crazy. How about Cotonou? How about, Cameroon? How about Niger? How about, nobody thinks about those non-English speaking countries. And that's
why do you think that is? Do you think it's because of the challenges of the language or the economics or what?
A lot of Africans do not like the unknown. The reason why we were colonized is because the foreigners, they were explorers who decided to go. The British did not speak Edo or Yoruba, but they came here anyway. For me, Africa is the last frontier. For anything, technology, business, anything. So when we are in here, and what I also found out, strangely, was that we share a lot in common with those people, even if we do not speak the same language. Take any city in Africa, whether it's from Casablanca to Cape Town, they have basically the same identity, but people do not really, really realize that. And there's another company I really, really want to mention. The company is called Landmark. Landmark succeed. They're a property company. They do managed services all over Africa. Okay. I looked at Landmark's model. Landmark actually succeeded in doing that. I think they're working in more than 20 countries now in Africa by looking for local partners in each of those countries. And working with those local partners. In our own case, it was very, very difficult to get local partner. We had one local partner in Tanzania that just disappeared. We couldn't find him anymore. In those countries, getting people to understand and do what we're doing was also very hard. So maybe we just ended up hiring local talent rather than working with local partners. But for me, I see going to a new country now as a challenge, not as a burden. But a lot of people, you tell them, okay, look, that this product can actually work there, or whatever service you are providing here Then there's also this thing we have, in Nigeria, feeling that we are superior. It doesn't work that way. A lot of people don't like us because of our attitude. When you're going out, be humble. Humility, helps a whole lot.
And opens doors for you.
Opens doors. And just try to understand the culture, understand. So the other way around is even worse, because it's only maybe Kenyans are bold enough to now come to Nigeria and now doing stuff. Because we have a common language, and maybe they've actually finally decoded us that these guys, they're just back, they can't bite. Nigerians are actually some of the friendliest people, and most accommodating people in Africa. And the market in Nigeria is actually pretty much wide open. And yet a lot of Nigerians still don't see the opportunities, even locally.
And why do you think that is?
Because we love territory. We love seeing one model and seeing that this model is successful, and everybody wants to replicate the same model. We never really explore. Look at we don't have contrary views. We don't, people try to conform always. Somebody is doing this thing this way. Why don't I try the other way? Because that template is successful. I must also use the same template. That's a very, very big problem in Nigeria.
Okay.
And very, very few people innovate. I can count, on my, two hands, the real innovators I actually know, in Nigeria, who actually started something new that other people now looked at and said, hey, wait a minute, we can actually do this. There are other people who looked at existing models and made it better. For instance, in banking, like GT Bank, for instance, looked at what people were doing and said, no, this doesn't work. They're still not like at Western standards, but they're the best when it comes to actually using technology in banking now in Nigeria.
Okay.
So that kind of innovation, it rarely comes from without. Peter Thiel talks about 0 to 1 and 1 to n. We always want to do 1 to n. We never do 0 to 1 in Nigeria.
Okay.
That's our problem.
Okay. So, Victor, I've spoken with one or two entrepreneurs in this series thus far, and it seems like your name always pops up whenever young entrepreneurs are starting a new company or they're looking for advice. Like, take, for example, I'm sure you probably know Jason Njoko. I've not spoken with him yet, but I read his blog, and one of the people that he gives credit to in terms of talking about technology and respect your views is you. So,
okay.
So why do you think that is? Why do you think that a lot of these young technology guys value your opinion a lot?
Okay, this is just the reality. If you made mistakes and you're willing to talk about those mistakes openly, that, oh yeah, I messed up, and I agree I messed up. This is why I messed up. This is how I messed up. And people actually look at it and say, okay, well, I don't want to praise myself. I will say it's about being honest with yourself and with those people outside. You mentioned Jason. Jason's own story was interesting because I remember the very first day, it was at a Google event in Nigeria. He was actually talking about BlackBerry babes. He eventually married the BlackBerry babe. he launched, and I remember when he was trying to put together this event for tech entrepreneurs in Nigeria. Had been bugging me for years. Is like, he's the person who single-handedly galvanized the Nigerian tech ecosystem. But a lot of people don't give him credit. A lot of people do not realize what he did. He was in the UK. The gentleman I told you about who had worked with us, who went to do his PhD, who was his friend. He actually did some startup together that didn't survive. And, the guy kept on telling me about, that's, on Facebook. And eventually, Manchester, we met. And he kept on bugging me about how he wants to come to Nigeria. And I kept on telling him that it was a bad idea, And, he very stubborn guy. He still came anyway. And he was getting this event organized where one of these people from one Silicon Valley reporter, Sarah Lacey, was coming and all of that. We actually had dinner with the lady the night before. I didn't realize that everything I was saying off record, she was going to use his blog post for TechCrunch. At the end of the day, I saw this guy who was so I kept telling him, why don't you tell this guy to come to the event? Why don't you tell this guy to come to the event? And said, okay, yeah, he already got a mail from him that he was going to invite him. So, he invited him. And the guy was at the back of the event. And he asked some questions. I said, look, this guy is very, very intelligent. I think there was a payment company that was talking about all the things you had to enter. He was asking, okay, what about you? What about privacy? What's your privacy policy? Are you gathering all of this information from me? Immediately I saw that. I said, no, this guy is more than just somebody who's doing BlackBerry babes. You know what I'm saying? So And when we had dinner the night before, those guys had mentioned, Alyssa's husband had mentioned that, one of his hobbies, he takes photographs of record stores, old record stores, so he was looking for one. So I said, okay, this guy, he's familiar with Alaba and everything. Probably he will know a record store, you know. So I said, okay, guy, why don't you come up front and see these people, and that's how he went there, and the rest is history. Met them, and the rest is history. The thing is this: with all of these guys, I don't hold back. Even with Jason, when he started, when he was, I tell you the truth. You hate me. That's what I'm saying. But I'll be doing you a disservice, if I don't tell you how it is. You get what I'm saying? And I don't praise myself, but I think, we've done well, for people who started from, who had only one computer in Benin City, were taking turns to use it. One computer using a dial-up modem, at the back of my uncle's house. That's where we started the business. We're taking turns, and we're, from out of that nothingness, we're able to create something. Do you get what I'm saying? We're able to go to other countries. We're able to do what we did. So which means it's easier now. So it means you can actually do much more than I ever dreamt I could achieve. I told you about what happened at Econet, how, that money was raised. I believe that much more can even be raised. You understand what I'm saying?
But we hear a lot of technology startup guys talking about it's difficult to raise money locally. What do you think about that?
No, okay, now, each time I hear that, I almost lose it. First of all, yes, it's true. The people who have money locally also do not trust the entrepreneurs. You have to. Let me put it this way. I have done something. I'm successful. I'm rich. You have done nothing. You're not successful. Yet you want me to give you my money. Prove to me why I should. You understand what I'm saying?
I see.
And that burden of proof is actually on the entrepreneur, not on the
investor.
Not on the investor. And what HSBC Capital at that time did was actually educate. I remember when I saw the prospectus, the finished product, it was growing in 4 weeks. I saw the prospectus. If I had money, I would have actually invested in Econet. You understand what I'm saying? They use data. They use everything to make a case. It wasn't like your regular 5-minute pitch. People think it's just that pitch that does it. No, it's a relationship. It's your understanding of what's happening in the industry. Or you have to show mastery. It's not about just saying, I have this idea. Like I always tell people, somebody comes, I have the idea. Look, I have 200 ideas every day. It's because I have an idea and I tell somebody, I was thinking about it. Yes, me too. I also think about the way you're thinking about, but I want us to do it. I want to stop thinking about it. You get what I'm saying?
Execution.
Get something out of the way. Or people say no, it's so. Okay, this is the thing. I do a little bit of investing nowadays, and I tell people the company I want to invest in, must meet 2 criteria. Number one, you must have raised some money from family and friends. If you can't convince your family and friends that your idea is good and you can't raise money from them, then it's probably almost most likely a bad idea. You get what I'm saying?
I see.
Then number 2, and also you can't even. If you cannot raise money from your family and friends, the possibility of you raising more money is actually remote, because I'm not going to be the one raising money for you. You're going to keep raising money. You get what I'm saying? Now, number 2, which is for me, when I tell people this and they no, but when people keep saying there's no talent, what they're looking for is people that they want to pay salaries, not people that they want to work with. Do you get what I'm saying? when you tell me, if I ask you, okay, look, the people working with you, do they have a stake in the business? And you tell me, no, they're just salary earners. There's no way I'm going to invest in you. And that's another fundamental problem that, a lot of Nigerian startups have. They want to employ people. They don't want to work with people. There's a very, very big difference.
Oh.
You want to have people and call them your staff. Not, like when we started Swifter, I always tell people this. When we printed cards, everybody was a partner. I call them, look, our partners. I didn't look at anybody as an employee, and I still not do that. Without them, there's no business. Do you get what I'm saying?
I see.
And that's, a fundamental thing. Everybody wants to be a Leo Stan or, one of the big names in tech. Oh, you have plenty people. Everybody wants to be the mogul, the guru, but that's not it. The founder has to be, in fact, you have to be the servant. You have to be everything, to the people who are actually working together with you. In fact, there was a Cameroonian company, Njoku, where people were laughing at them. Oh, everybody's a co-founder, but that's the model. You get what I'm saying?
Inclusion and partnership.
Precisely. They were laughing at them. Oh, Njoku, everybody's a co-founder there, but that is how it should be. And those are two fundamental things I see with local startups. First of all, try to raise money, because my mother gave me money when we started. My uncle helped me out, with a lot of things, not with non-cash. I used his place. I had a lot of support from him, and he actually pointed me out to suppliers who can actually give me supplier credit and all of that. There are so many things people can do for you without necessarily giving you cash that are actually more valuable than cash.
I see.
But you have to build relationships or leverage on the existing relationships that you have.
Okay.
But a lot of people don't do that. You look at read TechCrunch, you want to, there's somebody online, she actually, when somebody was complaining about funding, she said, what do you need funding to eat? Said, don't you have family? That's what she asked. Because she lives in the UK. Nigeria lives in the UK. And that's really, really it. So if you are looking for money to eat or to employ, you've just missed the boat. So I don't really think that problem exists. I think we've manufactured it.
Okay.
Because they said there's this guy, the guy that started with Innovation Hub, Idrisaya Bello. He mentioned something that really, really struck him, that a poor man, is the one who has no family or friends. If you have family or friends, you're not a poor man. So you should be able to, start something, small and prove something that other people cannot come to invest in. So if you can't do that, sorry, you're in the wrong game.
So now let's take it to present times. What do you think is the current state of innovation today in Nigeria or in Africa?
Okay, I don't know. State of innovation is very, very broad. But okay, let me give you my perspective of what I see happening and what I think about it.
Okay.
Like I said before, Africa is the last frontier.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, a lot of people who have, maxed out other markets are now looking to Africa and say, okay, what can we do here? But, there are still a lot of things that a lot of people do not understand Africa. Some people feel that they figured it out. You have all these consulting companies providing all sorts of data. And I look at the data these guys provide. The data is about Africa as a potential market, not Africa as a productive base. And there's a difference. And that thing really, really gets me worked up. Because the biggest asset Africa has now is the young population. You go to a place like Uganda, you have 70% of Ugandans under 30. You can imagine what you can transform this kind of people to be. That was what India was, years ago, and that's how India became a technological force. How can we look at Africa that way, as a productive base, and how can we turn Africa, rather than looking at Africa as just a consuming market? You know what I'm saying? Education has problems. So-called innovation we're talking about, has problems. If there are more companies trying to bring products from outside to sell as e-commerce companies than companies who are actually manufacturing products or services from Africa, then we have a problem. You get what I'm saying?
I see.
Like Nollywood, I love what Jason did in Nollywood because that's our local product you're taking and trying to sell. You get what I'm saying? It's not That's local ingenuity, local talent. You're actually helping that productive base. If you now want to bring things from outside to bring to us, you're not helping us. You get what I'm saying?
I see.
There's a difference. So, and that's the way I look at Africa, and I see so much potential, so much opportunity. There are lots of challenges, but the way we as Africans should look at Africa is not the way foreigners are. We tend to view Africa from the lens of people outside. I get very, very worked up. I tried to do a funding round for healthcare last year. You go out. I decided to target my friends in diaspora who are in the healthcare industry. You're trying to get them to actually invest in healthcare projects. I found out that Indians were now opening up hospitals in Lagos. Indians own the best hospitals in Lagos. Just let that sink in. Indians who have started setting up diagnostic centers in Lagos. Indians are owning the healthcare industry in Nigeria. And I was making a plea to these guys. Why don't you come back or invest in some? First of all, first question was, who will run it? Which was a valid question because talent is a problem. Healthcare, because most of the good doctors and healthcare professionals, they've all left.
They go overseas.
So, it made a lot of sense. So, and next thing somebody said, okay, where are the opportunities I can make money? And, all what they're thinking of is they want to come make money in Nigeria and take it back to their safe haven outside. And I was saying, you guys don't get it. You guys don't understand that, you can make so much money in Africa that, you don't even need to work again. Do you get what I'm saying? And it's just sad that even Africans are also guilty of what non-Africans are doing. They look at people in diaspora look back home and look at a place where they can come harvest. They think they are seeing low-hanging fruits. People here are very foolish. They can't pluck the fruits, so they want to come pluck them and take the fruits back to where they are. So that's really, really, in a nutshell, what my perception is of what's happening. And I believe there's so much potential. It's also for people to actually have some reorientation here. That help is not going to come from outside. Anybody that there are a couple of investors from the States that came for an event, in Ghana here. When I was in the States last year, I met with them and all of that. I met with them again earlier this year. They had tremendous insights. There were things they knew. They came here, they saw things that were not apparent to us. You get what I'm saying?
I see.
Like somebody asking me, okay, why are we bothering about addresses when every house has an electricity meter, a unique ID? And I say, what? Nobody thought about that. You know what I'm saying? But it's actually getting that data. That's now the challenge. They had a different perspective. But ultimately, what these guys were trying to do, even though they were coming, they're not coming. They're coming to make money from Africa. That's it. It wasn't. They're not coming to help us. So we should get it out of our head that there's some savior that's coming to, help us from out there. We can only help ourselves. Nobody else will help us. If they're coming to do anything here, it has to be profitable. It has to be something. Somebody is thinking about addresses because he's looking for how he's going to sell stuff, to Africans. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
he wants to manage the address problem because he wants to sell. He's not doing it because of the good of his heart. So and people are willing to sacrifice all their data, give everything to the guy who's there, only to come. For the person to come, make a lot of money, and where we're left holding an empty pot. Just let me add this: Philip Megwali, he said something, in a blog post he wrote in 2010, which really, really, really changed my perspective on everything. He said, a bar of raw iron, that cost $100. in Africa, after you just mined it. In Africa, we only have the technology to maybe change it into cups. So, and the value we add is maybe another $100, so it becomes $200. Okay? People in Asia will take that bar of iron, that's $100, and turn it into needles. And the value of those needles would be like maybe $65,000. Now, people in Europe would take that same bar and turn it to springs in watches. And the value of what they've created would be $5 million. Now, the same bar was in Africa. Same thing with human resources. You take a guy from the gentleman in England I was telling you about that. Okay, did not pass his matriculation exam, but eventually got in and was doing so much stuff. He was talent, raw talent here. He's now building platforms for hedge funds in the UK. You understand what I'm saying?
I see, yes.
Look at the value they added to him. So why can't we do that locally? If it's the same guy who was in Benin City, who's now building, trading platforms for hedge funds, what are we talking about? We have everything. We have the raw talent, the raw materials. All what is required is the process. So we need to learn that process, and we need to bring that knowledge to transform that raw material into $5 million product.
Okay.
So that's really what we need to do in Africa.
That's interesting. So as we're wrapping up now, I just want to take it to the advice mode, even though you've given us a lot of advice. But my first question will probably be this. So looking back on your career thus far, what advice would you give to yourself if you were just starting out today?
That's a hard one, because things are very, very different today. There are so many things. There are so many resources. There are so many things that people have now that I didn't have at that time.
Okay.
And I wouldn't know, if I'll make the same choices I made then now. One fundamental thing that pushed me into entrepreneurship, was I wanted to be different from my family. People look at me and say, "Oh, you have very successful family members." There's this misconception that because I had wealthy family members, I will always be successful. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't always that way. I needed to prove it when I needed to be my own person. I needed to maybe now I have a cousin who's also trying to break out on his own. His father is wealthy, and he's done amazing stuff. He started a beverage company. He's done some things that I can't even imagine. And he's just 22. In Nigeria. Maybe because he had that background, he could take more risks. Maybe. And maybe because I also felt that, I could never go hungry. You get what I'm saying? I could actually also take those risks. Okay. Now, there are people who are really, really hungry who do not have that background, who do not have that thing I had. They may not have a mother who will sacrifice everything, who will sell her car, to see that your business starts. You get what I'm saying?
I see.
They may not have. So things are very, very different for everybody. Now, if I had to do it now, I don't know what the circumstances would be. So I won't say, because a lot of things are different now. There's the internet. There are a lot of resources. Now there are a lot of people claiming that they want to fund startups. People, a lot of people going up and down. What I keep telling people: ignore all of that. Look at the problems. What problems are there to solve? Look at, I keep referring to Peter Thiel's philosophy of 0 to 1 and 1 to n. If you want to do 1 to n solutions, then you really, really need money. You know, you really, because it's something somebody has already done, you want to actually scale. Now, 0 to 1, those are, biggest opportunities. You know, from 0, you are going to 1, something has never been done before. Now, those opportunities, because Africa is the last frontier, there are several of those opportunities still there. We don't have to just look at Uber and just, say, clone Uber. You know, I was reading VentureBound yesterday about the company called Africa. They looked at the model and said, look, you know what, why do exactly what Uber is doing? Why don't we allow people to fix the price that they want to pay before they actually get on the ride? And, which was a very, very fundamental thing, because those guys understood user behavior, you got local user behavior. So to somebody outside, it won't make sense. You know what I'm saying?
I see.
To us, the guy needed to know how much, because he's not going to waste money. He wants to know how much this product costs before he moves forward. So, and I'm still learning every day. I went for an event in San Francisco. I didn't realize, first thing I did on UX was in England in 2005, 2006. I didn't realize that things had changed, in UX so much until I went for a Google event, and I now realized, there are still blunders a lot of people are making. They're not starting from the user; they're starting from the product. You know what I'm saying? And nobody's gathering data. So if I were 22 years old again now, I will learn. I will not jump into a business just because I want to go to Lagos for an event. You know what I'm saying? But we're in school. We had the luxury of making those choices. Which is why I still prefer to actually look at people who are still in schools who have a choice. You understand what I'm saying? You can still go do work, or you can choose entrepreneurship. But try out your stuff in school. If it works, fine. You choose that path. If it doesn't work, it's harder when you get out of school where you do not have any choice. And you now start saying, okay, look, I want to do entrepreneurship. Then it's no longer a choice. You understand what I'm saying?
You see, yes.
It's no longer a choice. You're now forced. So I see a lot of forced entrepreneurs around, and it's very dangerous because, that desperation doesn't really, really bring innovation. Forget what people say. Desperation, it's not even the one to end. Those are not really even one to end. You start moving maybe 1 to 1. You're not going anywhere. You understand what I'm saying? Because you're actually cloning what another person has done. So instead of getting 1 to end, you now start having 1-to-1 solutions because of desperation. And everybody keeps moving around in the same place. So I don't know. That's, like I said, I don't know if I've answered that question, but I would, if I had the same opportunity again, and because of all what's happening around, I will learn. I will settle down. I will not jump into something because I've heard stories on TechCrunch, or I've heard that okay, maybe Jason raised so amount of money, and all of that. People, if they read Jason's blog, they realize the number of times they failed before it. It wasn't magic. It needs to do a switch. You understand what I'm saying?
I see. Yes.
So you have to have room for experimentation, room for failure, and all of that. I started early. Started when we were 22, and we failed early. But it took us a long time to fail. So it took us 7 years to fail, and which was also almost devastating. But I got out of that. I was able to come back again. And every day, those threats still exist. So, and what I've learned over time is also not to have fear.
To be fearless.
I've acquired a certain set of skills that, can never make me go hungry. Do you get what I'm saying? I can sit down today and think up something from my head that, did not exist before, and I'll make money from it. And every day I keep thinking of those things. The only problem is who will execute them. Now, the people who are supposed to partner with me to execute them are busy doing stupid stuff, and it just saddens me. But I'll let them make their mistakes and learn and come back.
So I guess that question kind of led into the second question I was going to ask you, which is, what advice would you give to recent graduates thinking about starting a venture? But I guess you've already answered it in terms of taking time to fail, not being desperate, and just learn and gather data.
Precisely, that's it. Because the most valuable resource in Africa is data, and very few people are gathering it. And people coming in from outside, they know, and we have the potential to actually build things that can actually gather this data. Well, it will be very, very sad if we let other people, like look at telcos, for instance. Local telcos started, Econet, MTN, those are African companies. They have so much data they've amassed over the years, but what have they done with it? They don't even know that they have this data. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So why aren't local startups partnering with them to actually, why do you have to take Rocket Internet to come to Africa for MTN to invest in Rocket Internet? Which was totally dumb for us, and I keep kicking myself every day because I went to the guys in the MTN group, look, you know what, we are the ones that are Africans. Well, the guy asked us, where is your platform? Bring something, we will invest in it. And I said, oh, really? And that was it. It actually opened my eyes. And look, we don't know how to organize ourselves. That's also another problem that we have. If we instead of fighting and let's just get when people talk about ecosystem. Oh no, we don't want any of all that hippie nonsense and all of that. Yeah. You can actually take it too far. And be tapping yourself, doing kumbaya, and not really get anywhere. It doesn't have to be something big and everything. It could be just in a particular area. Like gaming, for instance. In Nigeria, my very good friend, Meka Okoye, he's been trying to set up a gaming community. You find out the same guys who will come for me, we're interested. Tomorrow, they'll now come and tell you, they want to do BPO too as well. I said, are you totally mad? You know what I'm saying? There's no focus, So that's a very, 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 very big problem now. Somebody looks at, this thing, this other thing is making money. I remember Austin Osude is one of my mentors and my big brother in England. When my company failed at that time, and I needed to get a job, I was just desperate. He said I should go do a CV. So I did a CV and I came and I brought it to him. He looked at it and said, you know what the problem is with you? I said, no. He said, your CV looks like a disc jockey CV. You play this track here, went to this club, did this one, did the other one. So, because I was, one of the reasons why we also failed, because it's not because the Indians can take away our business. Because I wasn't focused. I was doing so many things too at the same time. I was doing timber, I was doing fuel, I was doing diesel, you get what I'm saying? I didn't really take time to actually grow this company to scale it. It was then and I realized that, I was going to, I had to leave everything. Then there was another gentleman, Colonel Kwechi Soldier. The guy, it was my client. I was distracted and I couldn't, because at the time the internet came to Nigeria, that was another thing, because it's like, my sister was working for an ISP, InfoWeb, so we're their agent. So we're actually doing a lot of installations everywhere. At the same time, we're also still doing our work with the company. Now, this guy, I had abandoned him for 4 weeks, and he came and he blocked my gate. He was, we're in the same church, he was our zonal chairman. So, he knew my house. So he blocked my gate until, I came at 8 p.m. in the evening, and he told me to be at his office 8 a.m. the next day. And, I showed up. And I was there, and I was apologizing, telling him, okay, I'll fix your modem now. He told me, sit down. He asked me one question. He looked at the carpet in the room. Okay, if I need to get this carpet out of this room, how will I get it out? Now, I was looking at this guy. Are you crazy? I came here to fix your modem, and you want me to take your carpet? He said, no, just tell me how would you take this carpet out of this room if you needed to? And I didn't have an answer. So he said he was going to help me. Will you gather it from all corners, or will you start folding it from one side? Which one is easier? So, and I admitted that it was easier to start folding it gradually, so it's easier for you to take it out of the door. So why are you living your life like you're gathering the carpet from all corners? You understand what I'm saying? why are you not folding it from one side, before you take the carpet out? So, and, it hit me that I didn't have focus. And that was it. So, and he told me, look, this mail that he needs to send, because the president then, Olusegun Obasanjo and him, they were very, very close friends. He actually advises the president on national security affairs. This is what I need to do. This is very important to your country. So fix this stuff. So, and I did, and I never looked back. It was then I faced tech fully. Yeah.
That's I don't even know how to classify that proverb, because it made so much sense in the way the man put the description to you. It was just right in front of you, rather than gather the carpets all around. Just focus from one end and roll it forward. And there's a famous acronym I've come to embrace over the year that is focus. It says, follow one course until success.
Precisely.
Yeah, so that's very good. So now, could you just tell us what are some of the useful resources, books, software, messages, tapes that were valuable and inspirational to you during your entrepreneurial journey?
2 books. Only the Paranoid Survives and The Group. There was another one, Who Moved My Cheese? I think it's Spencer Cricket. I've forgotten the author's name. Who Moved My Cheese? That was another story. There are a lot of people who have helped me along this journey. It's not something that came from within. Even when I was going in the wrong direction, they helped me do course corrections. From my mother to my uncle to Konokwechime, my brother, Swede, my best man, Fidelis. There are a lot of people. What I learned was that, okay, everybody has, some value, some advice they'll give. That will actually help you in some way. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
And what books do is they sum up a whole, like maybe 25 years of experience. Somebody sums it up in something that you can read for a couple of hours. Just read it. There are other books, that don't come to my head now. But those 2 books that I mentioned, when we were actually making serious course corrections, Only the Paranoid Survives and The Group, made me realize the nature of technology, sigmoid curves and everything. How, the inflection points, how to know when you've reached inflection points and, look at trends and see where things are going to go to. A lot of people make the mistake of, there's this guy, it's a popular term people use about following the pork instead of going to, following the pork to where it's going to, instead of following the pork, rather than waiting for it to come to you. Do you get what I'm saying? When you're playing hockey. Some people chase salmon upstream rather than wait for the salmon to come to them. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, Only the Paranoid Survives actually, made me now understand. It's a timeless book. If anybody can still find it, they should read it. Because the chairman of Intel, he actually explained why Intel became Intel, and how they took advantage of everything. And recently, there are a lot of books I read recently, like even Steve Jobs' biography that gave me so much insight.
Is that the recent one, Walter Isaacson, right before he died?
Right before he died.
Yeah, that's a very good one.
Yeah, there are things I learned from that thing that, but I could only learn those things after the fact. Do you get what I'm saying? There are things you learn while you are doing stuff. There are things you learn after you've made some mistakes and you now realize, okay, look, this is what I did wrong, and you now make course corrections. Strangely, the most useful books are the ones that I read after I had made the mistakes. Do you get what I'm saying? And if I had started reading early, if I didn't trust my own knowledge and understanding, if I had started listening to those people earlier, but those people, they would not have given me advice if they had not seen me making those mistakes too as well. So that's why I'm actually very, very blunt with people when I tell them things. You like take it or leave it, because if people did not do this for me, I would not have made those corrections. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I'm grateful to those people, and that's why I keep doing it for others too as well. So if people don't like me, well, too bad, but I will not lie. You understand what I'm saying? To any entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. That's the worst thing you can ever do to them. For you to praise them to their faces and talk bad about them behind their backs, that's evil. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it seems as if the media and other people do that. I would, if you're doing nonsense, I'll tell you you're doing nonsense. You need to make course correction. People say, you always have an opinion. Well, it's my opinion. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to take it. It's my opinion, but I'll tell you, this is how I see it. And that's what I keep doing, and that's what I will always keep doing. It's very, very important that you hear those voices, but you make those decisions yourself. Ultimately, you are the one in charge. But listen to those voices, read, gather data. That is as simple as that. If you do those three, I keep telling people that there's so much potential for tech in Africa that no techie should be a poor man. Walk across the city. There's just so much you can do. Look at we cyclers in Lagos, collecting dirt, rubble. Bilkis, she's done something out of it. It's just. Meanwhile, you see all that rubbish. I keep asking people, okay, do you know your streets? You want to conquer the world, but you haven't conquered your streets. When I saw Next Door, I was so impressed.
What is Next Door?
Next Door is like a social network for your neighborhood. Okay. But it actually started in Silicon Valley, and I realized that we don't have no African equivalent of Next Door. Now, the funny thing is that you say this, and somebody goes, some pitching context. I don't want to see what somebody pitched. I want to see what somebody has done. Do you get what I'm saying? That's working. Somebody has built something for estates, gated communities, and all that. All well and good. But I want to, because I'm here in Accra. I don't even know who my neighbors are, and it's so bad. And I kept telling the guys managing the estate, look, this is rubbish. But I now realize that it's not the guys managing the estate that will solve it. I am the one that will solve it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when I tell people, I keep giving these ideas to people. You know what? This is a problem. I think it's something I feel we can solve. And they look at you and so where's the money going to come from? No. This is the interesting part. Where the money going to come from is not where the money is going to come from the money the project is going to make. Is where's the money going to come from to fund this project? And I'm saying, what? So you can't do something, then see how it works, or go through a thought process to find out where the money. You are looking for where
you can actually prototype using simple tools. Even if you start with a Google Doc or a Hangout or something, you can always prototype with simple tools. And then once you validate the idea, gather some of your own funds or bootstrap it, and then put up a mock-up.
There's a guy. I can't mention his name here because he'll not let me mention his name.
Okay.
He always used to tell me, look. That number one, secret to his success. He doesn't chase targets. He doubles them. You get what I'm saying? Now, when he sees also an opportunity, he does not rest until he's the best at whatever he's doing. You get what I'm saying? And successful entrepreneur, because he sees opportunities and he takes advantage of those opportunities. He's not looking for how he's going to, people defeat themselves. Like on Twitter yesterday, I was discussing about setting up tech hubs in schools. People were already seeing the downside rather than seeing any upside. And I was saying, how do you guys think? Has anybody tried this thing and failed that you guys are all talking about? People talk down ideas. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm talking about, okay, look, we should do this. They are saying, oh, the schools are this. No, one person had already listed like 20 reasons why it won't work. And I said, okay, you know that my one reason why it will work will actually trump all of those things. You get what I'm saying? So, and they looked at, oh, well, okay, probably, maybe, So another thing again, Navarro Ravikant said something, which I totally believe. If you have an idea, if it's easy for that idea to be stolen, please let it be stolen on time. You know what I'm saying? So you don't waste your time, like 10 years later, then you now realize that it was a bad idea. You spend so much, So let it out in the public domain. When you let it out in the public domain, you are actually getting feedback. You're not getting advice from people who have not done it. The only people who are where the advice is valuable are people who are in that domain, who understand the kind of problem you're discussing. And it's not people may have tried and have also failed. You can listen to why they failed. You can try to understand the domain better if you are not familiar with that domain. But if you really, really believe that an idea makes sense, test it. That's just it. It's as simple as that. It's not difficult. Like you said, the tools are all there now to test those things. It's not rocket science. And start from your street. If I see that, okay, look, something. First thing I ask myself, okay, are there enough users in my street that can use this stuff? And if there are not enough users in my street, and I'll say, okay, maybe probably this thing is a fluke. Maybe then I keep discussing this thing with people, and I find out that, oh yeah, okay, you know what, I actually have a similar problem. Which are the things I now learned from UX? The whole user journey thing. If there are more personnel that actually have the same pain points, then you may be onto something. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And not to now come out with a model and say, okay, look, you know what, this is how I want to do this, to do a prototype, and you go. This is all experimentation, and the lab is all around us, but we do not know. The lab is all around us. The tools are all there. Yeah, there's a young guy in Ghana, people said, this guy, 15-year-old, he can develop, he can do this, can do that. Okay, fine, and I realized that you don't have a laptop, so I gave him a laptop, fine. Then he now asked me, oh, do I know a good UI person that can help him do his front end? And I told him, you are 15, you're looking for a UI person. Are you mad? Be the UI person, learn everything. You know what I'm saying? Because he's going into his head now like he's an entrepreneur. He wants a UI person. You're totally insane. When I learned PHP myself. I did everything myself. As I was doing PHP, I was also doing networking. I was cabling. I did all of those things, because I could. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's the advantage of youth. There are no limits. You don't have your family to think of. You don't have any. That because you can just keep doing and. It's so sad. It's very, very rare for me to find enough. It's terrible. Now, the people who are actually still doing many, many things are people who are my age. And, it frightens me. I say, wait a minute. Like the people who are, I know have like 4, 5, 6 companies doing several things are people my age. I say, why are there not more people in their 20s and 30s? Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you have to be about 40 before you can now start doing these things? And it's just, and the funny thing is that those people, will not have the same kind of outlook I have. People who are my age, that's the sad part, because kind of, and those guys also really, really damage the industry, because the kind of things they do, that now prevents young people. There's a lot of distrust. You get what I'm saying? When you should actually be open up, doing, and they'll tell you, well, you know what, there's no party in the jungle. These guys can't see it. Well, too bad for them. So it's just crazy. Well, I think Africa is an exciting place. There are a lot of opportunities. There are plenty of challenges too as well.
Yes, but that even reminds me of the giveaway we're doing for the launch of this show. I'm giving out a few copies of the book. It's titled "The Obstacle Is the Way" by Ryan Holiday. The Art of Turning Trials into Triumphs. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of the book.
Yeah. So
on my Kindle, I have so many books I've not read. I think that should be one of them. Or something
Yeah,
like that.
so it's just when I was brainstorming and putting this podcast together, the book was released, and I thought, wow, this is we have in Africa that are being talked about. That you look at issues and you try to solve them, as you said, start locally, scale up, focus, gather data, execute, and experiment, and that's the only way. A lot of the international entrepreneurs that we all follow in the US, Europe, all these other places, that's how they started. So your advice ties in beautifully to the book. I just thought I'd bring it up and mention it.
Yeah, it's a wonderful book. I think I remember now. There's a particular quote from it that I saw. That's why I bought it. And like you said, the obstacle is the way. You get what I'm saying? But people do not see that, very easily. I remember this was when I was in England and we were in class. So we were having a discussion, about something happened in England there. So I was telling them, no, but it doesn't happen that way. In Africa, this is how it happens. I can't remember exactly what that conversation was about. But, immediately I said this thing, the number of ideas I got, from the guys in the class now made me look at the problem differently. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. What I thought was a problem was that because there's a guy, avant-garde, he has a private equity company. This guy went to Yale. He was in Yale, and his idea then was to go to Yale, finish his Ivy League MBA, get a job in the US, and settle down there and all of that. He now found out that there were a lot of his classmates who were interested in knowing about Africa. So what he did was he organized a field trip. Got his guys together. They came here, they saw it, and they were blown away by the opportunities that they saw. Now these guys now helped him set up a fund. In fact, he has I think he said he has almost $1 billion now under management. When he told me, and I was saying, what? So he set up a fund to do PE work in Africa. So and he came back to Africa. Those guys were the ones that, because they saw those opportunities that he didn't see. If he had ended up working there in America, working somewhere, you have a desk job, have 2.5 children, safe, he would never be the person he is today. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because my in-law, and this is a guy who was in Benin too with me. He was working in a bank. But he said he was going to go to Yale. That was his ambition. He did. But what Yale did for him was open his eyes to the opportunities back home, not give him a safe job, in the US. So that's the thing. What we see as obstacles here are actually major opportunities that we can't even begin to comprehend until somebody opens our eyes. And so we need to put ourselves in a place where our eyes can be open. Because if we remain in the dark, there's no way we can see.
Yeah.
So we need to come out of the darkness. So come out of the darkness so you can see what's causing the darkness. So that's it. Because if you don't come out, you will not know. So people need to take a step back. I'm not saying everybody should travel abroad, but just take a step back from certain issues. If I say, okay, look, funding is the problem. Why is funding the problem? Take a step back and see how you can solve that. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Rather than keep complaining about the same thing. Because my mother, the very, very first advice she gave me, she was funding the business. Our cash cycles were very long. She'd give us some advances, then we'll pay her back. I insisted on always paying her. And she asked me a question. Okay, look, this thing, you keep doing it, and you keep complaining about the same client. Why don't you try something different? Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And try a different approach. You're doing the same thing. You're making the same mistakes. Look at the problem differently. My mother was just a teacher, but she could see it that way. And when I did, everything changed. So that's just it. It's not hard. It's actually easier than we think. We look at it and we say no. It's all really, really, really You see, I had this discussion with somebody last week about poverty, and we realized that poverty is actually. I'm not saying this to disrespect the poor in any way. I respect the poor, but it's a mind problem. It's actually people who are really, really poor, people who have been defeated mentally. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
People who do not believe that they can actually rise above their circumstance. So, like I was telling people, don't try to bring a poor person to your level. Make them your king. You know, they didn't get what I'm trying to say. Look, I say it's a self-esteem issue. There's so many things that make people poor. So if you can get them to believe in that they can do much more than they can ever imagine, they will never be poor again. You know, so that's what I believe should happen in Africa too as well. We need to get more people. You know, we need to create more kings. We need to make more people believe that they are kings rather than being slaves. Mm-hmm. Like if I look at a young guy, I'm not saying that okay, you know, maybe the young guy will now do what I have done. I want the young guy to do much more than I have ever dreamt of doing. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
You know, and I want them to realize that they really can. And if it's not me that will help them, they are the ones that will help themselves to be that thing. You know.
Wow, that's amazing. So, Victor, I know we've gone over time. I just wanted to say thank you for coming on the show and
thank you very much for having me too as well.
Sharing your story. We really, really learned a ton. And if you're comfortable, what's the best way for someone that wants to get in touch with you after hearing this interview?
Victor at afrinova.com. So it's Afrinova is AFRINNOVA, 2 N's. Victor at afrinova.com.
Okay, so, and I'll link to that.
On Twitter, I'm on Twitter at Asemota, so it's probably, you know, I'm always online, so it's easier to catch me on Twitter.
And thanks to Victor for agreeing to do the show. It was a blast. Hope to have him on sometime in the future. Don't forget to go to the website for the giveaway. I'll leave a review and enter your emails. Now, a final word from our sponsors, and I'll see you next time on Odeshi, the Bulletproof Entrepreneur.
Are you tired of spending too much money on call center operations? Looking for a better way to connect with your customers and provide quality customer service? Try Callbase. Callbase is a software as a service solution that makes it extremely easy to provide quality customer service over the internet. Through this platform, you can set up a call center in less than 5 minutes and immediately take care of your customers' needs while they are still on your website. The technology eliminates the high costs associated with setting up and running call centers, as your team can be distributed across the globe. Leverage the power of local numbers from 50 different countries and have calls answered 24/7 at low domestic call rates. Start delivering high-quality customer service today. All you need is an internet connection, and the software does the rest. Go to callbase.co. That's CALLBASE.co for more information.
Don't let another minute go by without taking action to change your life. Visit Odeshi.com right now for more incredible resources, and we'll see you next time on Odeshi, the Bulletproof Entrepreneur.